Hello, it's Nikki. How are you doing? Welcome to part 5 of Growing a Personal Brand. There are 4 other episodes, so if you haven't checked them out, do so, even though this will work completely fine as an independent video as well. I've been wanting to talk about this for the last week or so because I've hit some big dates in my career and I've been growing a personal brand for 22 years, which feels really significant. I can really see, I guess for the first time, maybe I've done a lot of reflection work and really going back over the journey mentally and physically, and really seeing the twists and turns and the forks in the road and the things that happened, the things that didn't, the things that were tricky, that were easy, that made no sense at the time, but made every bit of sense now. And I want to share some pieces, not because I think that I know all the things or because my way is the right way, absolutely not. But I know how valuable for me tangible examples can be, because what I want to do, and this is where I kind of use my coaching skills here, is I can turn it around and I can give these journal prompts, these lessons back to you, so you can take them away, you can play around with them, you can see how they could apply to your business or not, and just see what comes up. I think for me at this time in my career, I'm really looking for ways that I can shake things up and shake things up quite quickly sometimes. I know we're going into this sort of cooler weather, darker nights, and that can have a real effect, certainly on my energy. I don't know if you experience the same thing. And I don't want to be in that state of feeling stuck or things feeling heavy. I want them to be sparky and ready and here, there and everywhere. So hopefully this will be useful for you today. The first thing that I want to share is to invite you to try things on before you are ready. Now, I don't necessarily mean clothes, but I invite you to look at where you want to go and think about how that could be for you, and really ask yourself what you like, what interests you, what is an absolute, oh yeah, that sounds really exciting, and what doesn't. So I have always been a Rightmove addict. I absolutely love Rightmove. And for years and years, Matt and I would look at houses, look at flats, look at areas, look at the video tours. And I always say to people who are looking or thinking, or even to clients, to use the analogy of give yourself the gift of the video tour. There are so many houses that I have, I hope this doesn't sound weird, but there are so many houses that I have been in, but never physically been in. I've enjoyed that video tour. And that was really important for us moving into this house, because by the time it got to us being in a position where we felt like we could look at houses and go into them, I really had an idea of what kind of flow that we would have, or what would work for our family, what definitely wouldn't work for our family. Things like light, like I know that light is really important. And I think this is something that we can all do in terms of our brands, in terms of our business, and really look at where we want to go next. One exercise that I did over the weekend, and I'm not going to go into this too much because I'm not a financial advisor, and this was just a personal exercise that I did for fun. Yeah, I am that person. That's how I get my joy these days. But I've begun to set some bigger money goals for myself. There's money that I know that I can earn in my business, but I'm now at a point where I have more childcare, I have more support, more capacity, and I'm ready to go to that next level. And what really was interesting to me was playing a bigger game in terms of this exercise. So here's what happened. I know the most amount of money that I've ever earned in a year. And instead of just saying, oh, I'm just going to do like 10% more and see what that would look like, I started to play around with some bigger numbers. Like, what would that look like if that was doubled, tripled? What would happen if I earned 10 times that much? And there are certain websites that you can go on that if you put that figure of turnover in, it will give you a rough estimate, and it is an estimate. It shouldn't be taken as financial advice, of what that would look like in terms of you taking home that. Now, of course, there are so many variables or staff or business expenses or VAT, all sorts of things in there. But it was really interesting just to put those numbers in that calculator and just see what came up, see what came back. And when I did that, I took it a step further and I asked myself, oh, okay, so if it was that, again, I was tricking myself into like playing this fun little game. If it was that, how could I make that money? Like, how many clients would I need? What adjustments would I have to make to my packages and my pricing? Is there something that I could create passively so I could get to that goal quicker without me being in the room? All these questions started to come out to play. And what happened during this process of looking into stuff and trying stuff on before perhaps you're ready is I started to begin to see the possibility. Now, sometimes our brain and our body takes a while to catch up with the numbers, with the logic, but it certainly set me on that path. So when I came today to sit down, and I've had a desk day today, I made different decisions about what I focused on, how I spent my time. And that was really interesting to me because that was a direct effect of doing that exercise, but also thinking bigger, going to that next level, considering what that would look like. Juicy. Try it on. See what happens. Number 2, being willing to adjust. Adjust is one of my favourite words this year, and I've really been enjoying it. They use it a lot in yoga. And if you've followed for a while and if you've seen my work, you'll have known I've gone back to hot yoga. And it's honestly been one of my game-changing words because all bodies are different, right? And all the way that we carry ourselves, our where we hold our strength, where we hold our muscle, what's flexible, if we've got any injuries. And I'm just having such an appreciation for all forms of the human race because we're all doing it and we're all adjusting at the same time. And there's one particular pose, Warrior 2, if you're familiar. So basically, I've got my big chair energy today. You bend your front leg and you have a wide stance across the length of your mat. And the front leg is bent and the back leg is straight. And your arms are kind of out there like like you're surfing. It's that sort of feel. And sometimes what can happen is that I end up locking my knee to the point where it's like, oh, I don't feel very stable here. And one teacher once said to me a little while ago, just adjust your back leg. Just adjust it. Just pull it in a little bit. And it was such a small movement, but it made so much difference. And I started to see that in my business, in my life, what a tiny little adjustment is. We can see with a dimmer switch, for example, even if we just like turn it a quarter turn, it can make the room feel completely different. It can look completely different. The light moves in a different kind of way. And so instead of feeling that pressure of going, oh my goodness, I've got to change everything, or I've got to start again, or I've got to rework the whole thing, or I've got to delete it, or whatever it is, instead of putting that pressure on yourself, because you may not have time or energy or capacity or finances to change the whole thing, consider how you can adjust. Consider how you can just move one little thing. And then what will happen, or what may happen, is that you start to build that momentum within that. So it starts to you start to feel like that you're easing into it rather than like, oh my goodness, I've got to change everything. And this feels a lot. Okay, number 3, reasons and seasons. This has been really key in terms of my life and my capacity. As I mentioned, I've been running my own personal brand for the last 22 years. And in that time, my life has changed a lot and remained the same a lot as well. There's lots of things that I'm still very interested in, but I guess the biggest thing for me is my circumstances. So when I was 18, I was just a student having a nice time and just doing what I was doing. And now I'm nearly 41. I've got a long-term partner. I've got a house that needs to be paid for. I've got 2 small children. And I have different priorities. I also have different experience, different skills, different likes, different dislikes, all sorts of stuff going on. And I've also realised throughout it, despite what people are saying of like, you can have it all and just keep pushing and going and all the rest of it, I know that if I do that and if I don't pay attention and I keep like doing all the things, I'm not working in the best possible way for me and nobody wins, certainly not me. And secondly, I end up feeling really burnt out and I don't enjoy the process. And sometimes there are times where I just need to do that one thing. So when I've had my babies in those first few weeks and months, I haven't been going, right, can I launch a new product? Like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. It's been enough just to say, has everybody eaten today? Have I had a shower? Great. Yes, I've had a shower. Is the baby happy? Is my other baby happy? Like, are things okay? Are they okay? And that has been that season at that time. And I think we have to pay attention to these because once you know what season that you're in, you can adjust accordingly. And that's not to say that you have to be stuck and not think about anything else. Sometimes, to go back to point number 1, when I've been in a season of feeling like I'm just doing the thing, I'm just being consistent, like when my children were born, that's when I started to come up with big ideas. And I wasn't doing anything about them, but I was walking around the park for a lot, for example, trying to get babies to sleep. And that's when lots of ideas came. That's when lots of inspiration came. That's when I saw gaps in my business or things that weren't necessarily working that well. That's when I began to see and uncover and reveal where I wanted to go next. And so just being aware of even asking the question, what season are you in? It's going to give you so much information. Number 4. Okay. Some people won't like you. Some people will think you're very average. And some people will absolutely love and adore you. Yikes. Have I learnt this the hard way? Yes, probably. Because certainly in the acting industry, people are very honest. And I've also been trolled a couple of times online. And that brings up all kinds of feelings and thoughts. And you could say that it's part of the process. But also it sort of doesn't make it any easier. And it's always a bit weird, always a bit peculiar. And then there are some people that they won't even audition me. Like they'll just call me back and they'll just phone me up and they'll offer me a job. Likewise with speaking gigs, people have seen me do stuff and I just get booked and paid and hired and it's lovely. There's coaching clients that I've had for 10 years and they keep coming back and doing stuff and then revisiting and it's amazing. And then there'll be some people that look at my content that I think that I've put a lot of effort and consideration and all sorts of things. And they're like, yeah, she's all right. She doesn't do anything for me, but like, yeah, like they might genuinely have that feeling. And then some people might hate me. And that's a really uncomfortable place to be in because most of us want people to like us. And yet, sometimes down to personal opinion, which that person is completely entitled to have, like we all are, their thoughts, feelings, perceptions can feel quite extreme sometimes. So I want to say in that you know who you are, and you know that you have people in your life who love you and are there for you and know you and who you are deep down. And it's one of those things just to be aware of. And the reason I wanted to share it is that there's sort of a freedom in knowing that that's probably the case for you, for your industry, like it is for most of us. That some people will hate us, some people will think we're average, and some people will love and adore us. And if that's happening regardless, we have to do what we're doing and do it in the most loving, thoughtful, full of integrity way. And yep. That's all I want to say about that, because I don't want it to be negative necessarily, but the realization really helped me that I was never going to convince everybody, or I was never going to be liked by everybody. Also, it's really good not to be loved and adored by everybody. I think that would just be really weird as well. One final one today to close off this series. And this one always anchors me. And it feels like it brings me back, like with a thud almost. It's got that kind of heaviness to it. There will always be a reason not to do the things that you love, the things that you want to do. For example, you might not think that you have enough time, energy, money, circumstances, skills, confidence. You're maybe not the right age, the right height, the right hair color, whatever it might be. And I think so often we can talk ourselves out of our big dreams much more easily than we can talk ourselves into them. And this has been a really good realization for me. And I've had it, and I had it quite young, I guess, which I'm really pleased about. And that's not to say, though, that I took action on it. But I think there's a realization sometimes where nobody is going to give you permission. There isn't going to be something that comes down from the sky like a big lottery finger and say, like, it's you, now is the time. I think quite often you have to make your own luck. I think you have to meet the universe halfway. I think you have to do the things that you want to do. And when I'm feeling like things are stuck, things are not moving quick enough, the first thing that I try to do, even though the temptation is to play the victim and blame the industry, blame other people or the government or politics or whatever it might be, like, oh, it's that over there. Wherever I can, I come back to it. So therefore, what am I going to do? So therefore, how am I going to move forward? Because we all know that we can only control ourselves. We can't control anybody else's. And quite often when I am making moves and I am moving forward, there will often be times where I don't feel ready. I don't feel prepared enough. I don't feel ready enough. I don't feel experienced enough. I've got imposter syndrome, like all of the things. But you have to keep moving forward anyway. Because, and here's the moment. It's an emotional one. How would it feel if you didn't? How would it feel now if you didn't? How would it feel if you didn't do it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Or how would it feel to regret not doing it? When something or someone took up your time and your energy and it was no longer an option. And this is what I want to leave you with today, is that impetus, that motivation, that come on kid, let's do this moment to will you forward. And to feel that you're in that momentum of exploring the next step. Because there will always, always, always be tests or reasons not to, or perhaps the sensible option or whatever else is going on in the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to close your eyes and ears off to it and go, la, 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 it's not happening and I'm just going to carry on regardless. You're going to need to do all the things, exist in the world, and also go for your dreams. And so I ask you, as a closer, where do you want to go next? What have you been thinking about? What's bubbling under the surface? What are you maybe not doing that you keep talking about? And maybe it's getting to the point where you're going to say to your friend, like, oh yeah, I was hoping to do that. And they're like, yeah, we've heard that before. Like, you said you want to do that ages ago, but you haven't done that. That's when you get called out and you're like, oh, maybe I have been talking about this for 5 years. Right, okay, maybe I need to do something about it. If I can help you, the best way is probably email hello@nikkiraby.com, just because there's some stuff going on my website at the moment, so that might be the best way round, and I can point you in the right direction going forward. Thank you so much for being part of this series. As always, I would love to know what you take away, what's come up for you, and ultimately what you're going to do next. It's really, really key. I never want you just to, in a way, bask in these conversations and go, okay, great, and then forget about it. This is about you moving forward and being proactive, being action orientated, so you can see those results. You can see those things that you want to be, do, have, and feel. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening and watching to the series. If I can help in any way, as I mentioned, hello@nikkiraby.com. Or if you would like to share this with somebody else, somebody who enjoys journaling or thinking about things in that way, I would really appreciate you sharing it in your stories, in your emails, wherever you would like to share. Lots of love, and I'll be back soon. Bye.